Welcome back. All right, so news of the day starting off with a trade that has finally taken place. I don't need two Carolina logos on this board. All right, Jesse Puljujarvi is now a member of the Carolina Hurricanes. Yep, so Carolina finally makes a move this morning. Maybe it's the video I did last night. They're like, oh, we haven't done anything yet. So the return is a project. Edmonton gets back a prospect slash project in Patrick Puistola, who is a player who was drafted 73rd overall in 2019. Now, some had him when they were doing up mock drafts in their first rounds. He was seen as a guy who kind of slipped in his draft year. And then 2019, 2020 was a rough season for him as well. But this year in Liga, he has 56 games played, 15 goals, 23 assists, 38 points for Ukraine. He's 22 years of age, so it's a Finn for a Finn, I guess. And it's interesting, too, because Puljujarvi, you'll notice underneath his name, I have June 20th, 2019. I did a quick search on the channel. That was when I did a video on Puljujarvi wanting out in Edmonton. I'm pretty sure it was rumored before that. And that was just basically, yeah, he has admitted he wants out. And we've gone this long from then until now before he's finally officially no longer Edmonton property. In between then and now, he also played a year overseas. There was a lot of talk about when he came back that, okay, things are going to be better. It's going to work this time. And it really hasn't. Puljujarvi's never gotten close to the ceiling that was envisioned for him when he was drafted. And so I wonder if the wait's been too long, if Carolina can coax him into producing the kind of points and goals that were envisioned, but at least it's done. At least for Puljujarvi, he's done answering questions about it. He is done with the whole Oilers part of things. The Oilers desperately need to make some changes here. We know this. The one thing is, there's no salary retention on Puljujarvi either. So this does free up the Oilers to make another move as soon as today, or as soon as maybe on Friday they get that done. But the Oilers, who have been very quiet, this is the interesting thing too. So I'm not as defeatist when it comes to Oilers talk as some, in that I don't think it's necessary for them to go all out to try to win a Stanley Cup. However, for Ken Holland, he needs to show that he is making his best efforts to improve things at the deadline, so that Connor McDavid feels comfortable and feels supported and feels like this team really has a chance. So we'll see what happens here, because McDavid hits his 50th goal last night. They take the picture of him with that 50th goal puck. And as I said in the recap last night, if you haven't seen that picture, it's quite something, because he doesn't look happy. He shouldn't. They lost the game. He shouldn't look happy going, yeah, well, at least I got my 50th goal. So while I wouldn't say that there's any danger of McDavid coming out soon as that's it, I want out of this, I'm done with this, the Oilers need to show that they're progressing in the right direction. And I think the trading of Puljujarvi could be the start of that. So from last night's game between Dallas and Vancouver, there were a couple of fines given out. First, Colin Miller fined for an elbow on a Mon, which was not called as a penalty. And Walman was fined for a slash on Delandria. Wallanen's impressed me. Not that the slash did, but Walman has impressed me for Vancouver. I'm hoping he sticks around for the rest of this season. Still don't understand why he hasn't been playing the full season, but there's that. And maybe Boudreau wasn't a fan, and so he wasn't going to get played. And maybe Tocchet is a fan, and so he's going to get played. Either way, if that's one of the benefits of getting Tocchet, well, winning me over. So if you're waiting for news on K'Andre Miller, it's still not happened. There's no hearing that's actually taken place yet. Whereas for Patrick Kane, we may hear something today. With Miller, the Rangers don't play tonight, so they don't technically have to have any kind of hearing with him today either. It's just weird, because normally they'll have the hearing that day and they'll announce the suspension and be done with it. But for Patrick Kane, we might be done with this talk today at 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific. Once that's passed, they will have enough cap space in order to acquire Kane. And so we'll see how things work. And again, there'll have to be some retention and all that fun stuff. But we'll see whether or not Kane is a member of the Rangers by this time tomorrow. In all likelihood, probably yes. I can't see him leaving the Chicago Blackhawks unless he knew there was a trade coming. I can't see him just going home for the season. And I can't see the Rangers wanting to leave him sitting at home when they can get him into practice and get him out on the ice and figure out who he's going to play with. So the Patrick Kane saga might be over later today, and I might be doing a video talking about it. So we'll see. So the league sends out a memo today. Now, here's the thing. I don't mind the LTIR loopholes. I don't. I really don't. I haven't. We have heard complaining about the LTIR loopholes way before Tampa Bay, way before Kucherov. Going back to the Chicago Blackhawks with Patrick Kane back in, I want to say 2015. And, it's one of those things that happens. And trading guys on LTIR and then they come off the LTIR list at the exact right time. This has happened since LTIR and the salary cap in its current form were created too. But the league sends out a memo today saying they're going to keep an eye on it. So for players on LTIR who might have been moved before the deadline, this now kind of puts a wrinkle into it because that's kind of vague, right? And it's kind of odd. And the NHL is also, according to Gary Bettman, tracking the healthy scratches for trade purposes. I don't know what they're going to do about it. This is something that I guess they could change in the offseason, but they haven't changed it this regular season, so there's not much they can do about it. The LTIR usage, again, it's been one of those understood things. And teams all being up against the cap, which, again, I don't blame on the players. I don't even blame it on the league. I blame that on the general managers who have basically spent their way to having no money. I just find the whole thing odd that, okay, so we have $83.5 million in salary cap space. All right, so what a surprise. Our players come out to exactly $83.5 million. All right, we're ready to go. And then during the season, we'll hear complaining about, they can't make trades and, they're grumbling about this and that. Well, you spent exactly the amount of money you had. So you can't spend your entire budget and then get mad that you spent your entire budget. And for the league, I'm not sure what their plan would be here. They created the LTIR loopholes, and as recently as I think it was last summer, the league was saying that LTIR wasn't a problem and they had no problem with it. And they had a CBA just a couple years ago where they could have updated it to change the rules, and they didn't. So I don't know. I find that odd that they're sending out a memo now. I'm not sure what the point is of said memo, and I'm not sure which ones they're going to track. And again, it's this cryptic thing, and it's better keep an eye on this. Why? What are you going to do? They didn't do anything with anybody else that's been traded on LTIR. And I've always heard too, and maybe this is a sign that this isn't happening, is that when a guy's put on LTIR, that the league will test to make sure that a player that's on long-term injured reserve belongs there. And that they see all the the injury reports and everything and proof. They see the proof that this guy belongs on LTIR. So and I've always said too, I really do not believe that a player is going to sit out for a month, sit out for 10 games just so that his general manager can go out and acquire a depth defenseman. And I don't think it's a good idea for a team to sit out a top 6 forward or a top 4 defenseman just so they can acquire a top 6 defenseman at the deadline. It doesn't make any sense. But at the same time, the league's sending out this memo. I just wonder what else could be coming down the pike. And yeah, we'll see. It's weird. So in the non-weird category, last night Jake Walman had himself quite the game. For Detroit. So Detroit loses 6-2. It's not on Walman. Walman had a good game. He was throwing himself in front of pucks and just playing well. And maybe it's because he knew he was signing a 3-year extension that was coming out today. The cap hit $3.4 million per season. Walman's found a home in Detroit after starting out in St. Louis. I was kind of surprised St. Louis let him go, but these things happen. I like Walman a lot. I know that Detroit fans have been impressed with Walman as well. He has I think 10 points in 40 games this year, but it's the defensive side of his game, it's the physical side. And it's what he's been able to help Seider with too. Like him and Seider together, it just works. So we'll see with Walman how many hits he takes in the next game tonight against Ottawa, how ugly that game against Ottawa is going to be. When teams play twice in 24 hours, it can get pretty ugly pretty early. So we'll see what happens in that one. But Walman banged up, and yet after the game, Lalonde saying, yeah, he's okay. He'll go again. So all the best to Walman. It's nice to see a guy who works as hard as he does getting paid for that work. And so all the best to him. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.